Hello again. Today I'm going to be talking about a couple of things: new moon resolutions, um, shadow work, and pretty much that's it. I think those are the two main topics. And I know a lot of people, or at least traditionally we think of the new year, like, and that for certain people being the 1st of January. In other cultures, the new year starts at different times. This is actually, I think we're close to the new year for those who practice Judaism. And the new year for the Chinese people starts usually about a month after our new year because it's based on a lunar cycle. But there's another way to do this, because I don't know about you, but like if I wait a whole year to like start making resolutions and thinking about what I might do differently in my life, and this will be about heal. This is about healing, by the way. But if I start thinking about what to do in, like what I want to change in my life or what things I want to bring in to my life in a positive way, like waiting a whole year to do that. Well, one, why wait a whole year? One, two, gosh, it feels overwhelming if you wait that long and then you have this whole like buildup of stuff, going on. So one different way to think about this, and one way that it has traditionally been thought of in a lot of cultures across time, is to use the new moon as a time to quote unquote plant seeds, right? Literally and figuratively. And then the full moon is a time to release things, to, that's when the light of the moon is the brightest. And so that uncovers the shadows and shows you what it's time to let go of. But starting with the new moon, you can prepare for that work of letting go stuff by planting seeds, by thinking deeply about where you are and what's going on. And each new moon has a sort of a theme, and that would come from astrology. And for instance, this new moon is in Virgo, and Virgos are all about routine, or the energy of Virgo is about routine, and it's about it's really about routine and things being in a certain place and having a certain time, being very organized and that sort of thing. So thinking along those lines, this is a really, and taking a hint and some inspiration from Jules, as well as my friend Vera, thinking about this in terms of like planting seeds of routine, right? So this is a really good time. This is a good time of year, even. Think about it. Like if people, and with all the stuff with COVID, if people are starting to maybe go back to work or starting to go back to school, the fall tends to be a time when we sort of are moving out of the summer, and maybe our routines, certainly mine did, got off kilter because the summer, has a different energy to it, and you're doing different stuff, and maybe you're in a different place, like I was, at least for part of the time. And then you come back and it's time to like get into more of a routine again, right? So this is a really good time, just in general, like forget anything else, right? To do that. So today is a great day to do that. It is the new moon. So that sort of, you can think of it as like that energy being there to start something new. And part of this work and part of healing, right, is figuring out what it is that keeps us from being our happiest and most joyful selves, right? And a lot of people talk, there's a new one, is sort of a buzzword right now, is shadow work. It's very real. I'm not dissing that term at all. It's a term I use all the time. But I think that it may be somewhat misunderstood. And I think sometimes people think that it's, a particularly like it has to be like a spiritual practice. Well, no, this is something that I do with my clients, right? I just maybe call it something different, but it's the idea of figuring out, what gets you, what gets you vortexing, what gets you triggered, what sets you off, and then thinking about those patterns over time, right? if you notice something that makes you like, okay, I get really angry when I get cut off in traffic. What is that about? Like, what does that come down to? What is the backstory to that? Where can you see other times when you get triggered in that same way? You get like a flash of anger, or you vortex really hard about a conversation or a situation. What are those situations, and what is really going on? And I will give you an example of that, and a pattern that interferes with some of my happiness and joy, right? Because I think that's helpful, and that's what I've always done. Let's give you examples from my life. So anyway, an example that I can give you is that, and this is in no way dissing him, my father was an amazing man. And this came up for me over the weekend and in the days preceding it, because that my father passed away a year ago, and a little over a year ago, and his, what would have been his 80th birthday was on Saturday. And I was sort of surprised. I shouldn't have been, because I do this work, but I was surprised at how much feeling I had around the day. And that also showed me that there was stuff that I had not yet worked through, that I thought I had worked through, right? Because sometimes we can think that we've released a pattern, or that we've grieved something, or that we've done some work, and we have, but we maybe haven't done all of it yet, right? And there's still some stuff lingering in there. My dad was an amazing person who was an amazingly successful man, both in the legal profession and business-wise, and in other ways. He also did unbelievable amounts of volunteer work, and did a lot of good in the world. And but that did come at a sacrifice of time for his family sometimes, right? And I am in no way dissing him or suggesting that he should have done anything different. What I am saying is that for me, that left me with some shadow work to do, right? Because I now have a thing about being a priority in the life of people who are close to me, right? And that's like, okay, hey ego, hi, here I am. I'm being brutally honest here. So and that when I feel like that's not happening, I can get really triggered, and I can overreact. Let's put it that way, right? Now, I have done a lot of work. I've been aware of this pattern for a long time, and patterns often also speak to some sort of either a deep wound or a fear. They really are mostly linked to fears. So for instance, a fear of abandonment, or a fear of not being good enough. So let's say in this case, I have this fear that someone is either going to leave me, or that I'm not a priority in their life. They don't really care that much about me. And then underneath that might be a fear that I don't deserve, to be loved, right? That I'm not good enough in some way, right? So that would be an example of a shadow, right? That I need to work on. Now, as I said, I've been aware of this for a long time. I've been doing a lot of work on this. It does not mean that I am done. This is a lifelong process, right? So I can recognize that pattern. I can see when I've overreacted. I can then try to make up for overreacting, while at the same time understanding that there may really have been an issue, with me and this person. And that's not to say that there wasn't, but that when we overreact, when we really vortex, when it really tears us apart, that's when it's time to step back and say, what's behind that, right? Now, how do you do that? First of all, you become aware. You think about it deeply, right? Now, the other thing to do is to, and this is something that I recognize, that I recommend in terms of planting seeds, for example, during this time of the new moon, right? Today and the next couple of days, that you sit and really, meditate on it, think about it. Think about, okay, wow, I have this really intense feeling when X happens, right? I wonder what's behind that. Can I think of other times that I have reacted in this way, or that I've had this same issue, or that I have vortexed in this way about this thing, or that I have overreacted in this way? And then to think about, keep thinking about, like, what's the earliest time that I did this, or that I had this feeling? Where could this possibly come from? What do I know? the other, and so then you can do that within the scope of, say, prayer, meditation, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. But I would suggest maybe one of the seeds to plant right now is to sit down every day, to put aside 2 minutes, 5 minutes, to set aside that time and just contemplate, what, like, if you've had something happen that day, or if you know of some particular issue, shadow that you, if you want to call it that you have, that you'd like to work on, just to contemplate it and to be compassionate towards yourself. This is not a time to like beat yourself up and say, oh, I'm a terrible person. That is exactly not the point, right? The time is to sit with that pain and to be compassionate towards yourself about it, right? And to just really allow yourself to be with that, whatever that pain is, that wound is, that old pattern is. Because the only way that we're going to escape those patterns is to become aware of them. The only way to unpick them is to know what they are, right? So whether you're, like, I can tell you, again, giving you an example from my own life. So what I intend to do with this new moon is I have, I do meditate almost every day. I won't say it's every day, but I do meditate almost every day. I'm going to really work on that being every day. Knowing that I need to do things first thing in the morning when I get up, right? So being aware that all that stuff that I need to happen first thing needs to happen first thing. So instead of, I got in a habit of, let's say, getting my coffee and snuggling with my dog in the bed. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. That's a good way to start your day, as far as I'm concerned. The bad thing was I would pretty quickly pick up my phone and start looking at news or social media. That is not a good start to my day, okay? That does not start me off in a good place. So what do? Keep the coffee and the dog, and then go straight into meditation, right? Before I do anything else with my day, I meditate. And it can be, sometimes my meditation is 5 minutes, sometimes it's 20, sometimes it's 30, sometimes it's longer. I also meditate when I walk, but that's a different kind of meditation, and I feel really called to really continue planting the seed, something which I started a little while ago, of getting back to a seated meditation every day. So that's one of the things I'm going to do. And in that meditation for this next month, my plan is to work specifically on, being aware of my shadows, where I vortex, and offering that up with compassion and love, to see if I can't help to dissipate it and to find more peace within myself about it, right? Because that's what it is. When I lose my peace, that's when I know I'm something's been triggered, right? When I lose that perspective, when I lose that peace, and I'm human, and it's going to keep happening. And once I figure, once I keep working these patterns out and they've gotten better, then other stuff's going to come up too. This is not a process that ends, okay? But it's good because the more you do it, the more peace you have, the more aware you become, right? So that, I think I'm going to leave it with that. There's other things that I could say, but I think I'm going to leave it with that. I invite you to make some new moon resolutions, right? I invite you to focus on routines and to focus on shadow work or have patterns that inhibit your joy and happiness, right? Things that keep you from getting what you want or being in the place you want to be. And this can be everything from what I was talking about in terms of interpersonal relationships. It can be eating habits. It can be exercise habits. It can be spiritual habits. It can be, keeping things clean. It can be whatever. Oh, that's another thing I always do on the new moon too. Or actually I do it on both new moon and full moon. I do a deep clean, right? That's why I like open everything up. I totally clean everything. I do a deep clean on everything. And that's part of what I'm going to be doing today too, is opening up the house, doing a really deep clean. I also I have an altar, and I change up my altar, and I clean my altar and move things around on it as I'm guided to do. But just think about what seeds you want to plant, right? I want to make sure I meditate before I do anything else other than get coffee in the morning. And I also am going to bring yoga back into my life at least a couple of times a week. I need to start. I just really want to do that. I know it's really good for me, and it's a way for me to do a breathing practice as well, which is also really good and really grounding. So those are the seeds, that, and then continuing to do the shadow work. Those are the things that I'm going to be focusing on. And I'm sure I'll be circling back to them in different ways. So, but that's just to plant the seed, right? So there you go. Planted the seed. Think about it. Think about what you might want to do, what sort of changes you might want to make in your routine that are going to help you start your day off better or have a better day in general, bring more joy and happiness into your life, have compassion, love yourself more, accept yourself. And that, that can also be about body issues too, right? And I know that's one that I work with too. That's another one that I work with is, loving my body just as it is and not feeling like it has to be different. That's something that I think a lot of people struggle with. So that's another one to think about, and to have compassion and pour love on yourself and on your body for all the wonderful things that it does for you, instead of focusing on the things that you think are negative about it. Anyway, I could go on forever, so I'm going to stop. I am wishing you the happiest of days, and I hope that this has been helpful in terms of thinking about planting the seeds for a good month, and hopefully maybe a little bit of an explanation of shadow work and how you might be able to do it. If you have questions, please put them in the comments. I will be going over those, and I will, it might inspire me to do a whole nother video, or I will at least answer questions, or, whatever. I will respond. So just feel free to leave any questions that you have about anything that I've brought up. And I hope this was helpful. Again, have a great day. Thank you. Bye.